Labour, what is the reason that you are partnering with Home Affairs and Dept to ensure that foreigners are getting jobs that South Africans can do?
We don't partner with them for that purpose. It's my short answer.
Thank you. Dept, what is the reason for you partnering with the Department of Home Affairs and the Department of Labor to ensure that foreign nationals get jobs that South Africans can do?
Thank you very much, Honorable Souls. We do not partner with Home Affairs and DEL to ensure that foreign nationals get appointed. The memoranda of understanding that we have specifically with Home Affairs is that it is our duty as Dept to ensure that we appoint a service provider that will work with us to not only, as Honorable Ngubane indicated, work with universities, but work with all people.
Okay.
Where all people who are in the skills space.
Okay.
To determine which skills, scarce skills, critical skills only that South Africa cannot provide, which then must not be imported. And our output is handing over the technical report.
I'm satisfied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, ma'am. Home Affairs. As legislature, we gave you a law, Section 38 of the Immigration Act. And that law says that no foreign national must be employed unless the employer goes and makes sure that there's no South African that can do that job. Is that correct?
Yes, Honourable Member, it's in there.
So that's the law. You then went and created a points-based system. What the points-based system does, that you just explained, is that if someone gets 100 points, they get a critical skills visa just by getting 100 points. And how do they get 100 points? They've got to prove that the job that they're applying for is on the critical skills list, correct?
Yes, that's part of it.
Now, the points-based system is not the law. So what Home Affairs has essentially done is made it easier for a foreign national just to reach 100 points by having a job on the critical skills list, then waives what the law says an employer must do. I put it to you, Home Affairs has made it easier for foreign nationals to get jobs that South Africans can do.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The points-based system, as was also indicated in the presentation, comes from a recommendation from the Vulundlela report. I think I said that the other time as well.
I understand. Tell me, does it do what I just said it does? When I'm a foreign national and I have a job on a critical skills list, you give me 100 points.
Yes.
And when you give me 100 points, you give me a critical skills visa.
That's correct.
And then I can go and do a job, and the employer does not need to find out whether a South African can do that job.
Yes, Honourable Member, because that occupancy is on the critical skills list,
I'll get
which
there.
indicates there's a shortage of that skill
I'll
within the
get there.
country.
But it's based on an outdated skills list. That's why I'm saying you and DHET is partnering. Because all you use is what's on the critical skills list. And as we stand now, when last was this list updated?
2023,
That's
2024.
3 years ago. So all this time you are giving people critical skills visas. Employers doesn't have to go look whether South Africans can do their job. Because you made it easier just by giving them points. That's not the law. It's affecting South Africans. You see my reasoning?
But the critical skills list, Honourable Member, if I can say, Pinty, maybe you can look at the Act, is in the Act and empowers the Minister of Home Affairs
I
to
agree.
publish a critical skills list.
I agree. But it's outdated. And it waives what Section 38 says. Section 38 says, even though there's a critical skill, the employer must go and look whether a South African can do that job. Your point-based system waives that requirement. Who empowered you to do that?
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
It brings me back to the other point I raised earlier, Honourable Chair, is that the Operation Vulundlela report, which was research conducted by the presidency,
that the law?
recommended that for the, if you look at the points-based system,
Is it the law, sir?
what the minister then did on recommendation from the Vulundlela report is waive the requirement for the labour letter because of the points-based system.
That's
And
what I mean.
It's the minister's right in terms of the act to waive it.
That's what I mean. You are just saying to me, that's what the recommendation said, but that recommendation is not the law. Because of that recommendation, a employer can waive the requirement by the law to go and look whether there's a South African to do the job. Do you see my reasoning?
Yes, but also if you, then we need to go into the points-based system, Honourable Member, with all respect. The points-based system, if you look at the criteria in the points-based system, number one, qualification. It sets the qualification very high.
Sir, you are justifying something that's unjustifiable. The question is, does a person receive 100 points when he's on that critical skills list? Yes. And when he has 100 points, he receives a critical skills visa without requiring him to get a letter from labor. That letter from labor would have meant that labor says the employer went to go see first whether there's a South African that can do the job. Do we agree?
It is like that, Honourable Member, but it's not against the law because the minister empowered to
I'm not
waive
saying-
that provision within the
I'm not saying it's against the law. What you're saying to me is, yes, it has that effect on South Africans, but it's not against the law. You are basically saying you are legally depriving South Africans from jobs that they can do.
But if I can just another comeback, if we look at the points-based system and what type of labor the points-based system is trying to attract, it's highly skilled, highly paid, highly educated individuals, highly experienced individuals. That is outlined in the critical skills, and,
Okay.
and that's why the recommendation,
Where
because
do you
it
find
does
that?
not compete.
Who informs you? Who informs that? Where do you go to determine that?
That-
I'll tell you where you go. The critical skills list.
Oh, that's two different ones.
I'm
Honourable
talking
Member.
about DHET. We're talking about universities. Where do you go? Where do you go? The critical skills list, correct.
Yes, but the
And
critical
it's outdated, 3 years. And as a result, and I'm only interjecting because of my time, because there's a lot I want to do. We both must agree that if my job is on the critical skills list that's outdated for 3 years, you as Home Affairs has created a system that gives me an automatic 100 points when I have 100 points, I automatically get a critical skills visa, which means I don't need to have an employer first go and look whether a South African can do the job. Do we agree that's the effect of the point-based system?
That's the intention of the critical skills list,
Yes.
Honourable Member.
And do you now see that it impacts South Africans?
Dept will speak to the research when it gets to compilation of this critical skills list, Honourable Member. And it's there to ensure that the
You
country
see-
attracts the skills required to grow the economy, the critical skills that's required for these positions.
You now took my time. So I'll just, with the chair's indulgence, make a statement and then I close, Chair. Because my time is up, I wanted to ask other questions, but I'd rather just condense. So, to Home Affairs, to Dept, and to Labour, maybe it was unintentional, but you have partnered to deprive South Africans from jobs that they can do and gives it to foreign nationals. The 100-point system waives the requirement of the Employment Systems Act, Section 8, that says an employer must first go look if a South African can do that job. Then you give them the letter that says you have confirmed that in good faith the employer went to go look first. But what Home Affairs has done is now is waive that requirement. As a result, Dr. Pekwa has a doctorate and a foreign national has received that job that belongs to her. How do we know that it's valid? There's a young man, Rowan Goliath. He has a BSc in chemistry and applied mathematics. He has an honors in physics. He has a master's in physics from El Dorado Park. He does not have a job. But when we look at the stats, there is a foreign national that is occupying that job. How do we know that? More foreign nationals are employed in universities than coloreds and Indians combined. We're not here to put you in a corner. We're not here to make you look bad. We're here to tell you South Africans are crying and you are not helping. You're prioritizing foreigners. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. I think that was a comment. Quickly to SIU. Slide 47, you speak about on NSFAS, you speak about the irregularity of the 4 companies that were appointed to distribute allowances to students. And I agree with how you termed this thing, but what would you say if I tell you now that, or maybe were you part of NSFAS court case against these 4 people when they were trying to to cancel them?
Honorable Chair, yes, we were part of the proceedings.
I'm told that NSFAS with yourself lost or something to this 4 in court.
Chair, let me perhaps provide context. We didn't lose the case. The Special Investigating Unit uses the tribunal for very obvious reasons and certain advantages. We were preparing to launch our review application in the special tribunal, which review application had Part A, which would then have been to interdict the enforcement of the 4 contracts pending the determination of the main review application, which was intended to review and set aside NSFAS's decision to award the 4 service providers the tender, and to declare the subsequent agreements unconstitutional, unlawful, and void ab initio. The board, prior to its demise, had taken a decision following Werksman's sanctioned investigation to put on hold the services of the 4 service providers, but it had not acted on its decision. There was then a development that an administrator was appointed, and subsequent to the appointment of the administrator, and perhaps without consulting us, the administrator executed on the previous board's decision, which technically meant self-help without really getting legal recourse to suspend the legality that flew from those agreements. The service provider ran to the High Court in the Western Cape, of course, for the enforcement of the agreements. So it put a lot of spin because we've now had to change tact, to move from the special tribunal to come to the High Court to come rescue what appeared to be a sinking ship. The agency of that immediate application did not succeed, but it was had on expedited basis, and the self-help was stopped. Whilst there was an appeal, parties ultimately agreed that the review application by the 4 service providers to challenge the decision of NSFAS to terminate the agreements would be had with our review application, which would have been issued in the special tribunal, but which was utilized as a counter application in the High Court. So those matters were consolidated, were heard in the High Court before a full bench. And the decision to award the tenders was reviewed and set aside. So we got what we wanted. The only challenge is there was an element of self-help that I earlier indicated. And the court acknowledged that for that period, there would have been no rational basis to terminate the agreements. And to that extent, the court did acknowledge that there was a valid agreement until the contracts were set aside. So there was no losing of the case, at least insofar as the SIU is concerned. Thank you, Chair.
So in short, what you are saying is the decision of the self-help by the administrator has created problems for NSFAS, if I'm hearing you correctly.
As I understand, the decision was taken by the previous board. It was the execution which was triggered by the administrator.
Yeah, so what was the time difference between the decision taken by the board and the triggering by the administrator? Do you have the details of the time frame in between.
I think perhaps our colleagues from the investigation space, but it looks like the decision was taken in the previous year. But the investigator can assist us, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think the time difference is almost a year.
Okay.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much. What is the process if any member here wants to refer either an institution or NSF or a CETA to yourselves for investigation? Must it go through the proclamation by the President? What is the process?
Thank you, Chairperson. The process of referral, it's simple. The committee can just write to the head of the Special Investigating Unit with maybe supporting document that will assist us in motivating for a proclamation. Or you can also copy the office, the presidency in that communication. It then helps to fast track the process. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm asking because this member has asked us that question a lot. The issue of a critical skills list. The problem with it is that you update it after a long time, and my understanding is that when you put together this critical skills list, you consult with the relevant department. So if you want to put a critical skills list in forestry, for an example, you will consult with the relevant department. Then you will say you are putting it as a critical skills list, and they must work with Department of Higher Education and Training through institutions to close that gap. So the reason why it's on the list is to alert the Department of Higher Education on how they must structure their, what do you call those plans of first years? What do you call them? Enrollment plans. So we then say, in 2027, we're going to have 250,000 spaces for first years or F10s. But those 250,000 spaces don't fall from the sky, in my understanding. Well, or if the system was working well, would say we have 20 things on the critical skills list. It's almost China now. We've got 20 careers in the critical skills list, occupations in the critical skills list. These 20, we currently in the pipeline, DG, they get on the critical skills list because of demand. We say the demand of medical doctors in South Africa, in order for us to close the gap, will be if we have 300,000 medical doctors. I'm making an example. But in the pipeline currently, in 3 years' time, would have produced 75,000 because they are in the pipeline. And in order for us to get 225,000, the enrollment plans should increase on medical and possibly on HR decrease. So for me, this is how an enrollment plan should work like. You don't wake up and say, I've got 270,000 F10 spaces without answering the question. And what is the question? The question is that critical skills list. But it will be futile if the critical skills list is not reviewed. Maybe we can say every second year. But it can't be 3 years and 4 years because it might not be responding to the question. So we will need to have the departments to have a proper discussion Because you are supposed to have, in November, the minister is expected to release the ministerial statement where he must tell how many spaces are there, if 10 spaces will be there. And that ministerial statement should be accompanied by this, because in that they will say, these are the enrollment plans. So the departments must assist us to respond to the question, right? There's issue of criminality. We must not run away from it. That Home Affairs, Home Affairs' weaknesses and immoral and unethical, some of the immoral and unethical workers creates a problem for us. Because the SIU says people enter the country through fraudulent study visas. So if they arrive in the country with fraudulent study visas, they say, I have a space at VETS. But VETS does not know that this child or this person is going to study there. They arrive here, DG. Then because they had applied at this, they've created a link with this immoral and unethical worker at Home Affairs. They go and create some fake factory producing drugs so that they have money to buy them for a permanent residence. So if we had Home Affairs, we would have said, DG, maybe from the numbers that the SIU has seen so far, those ones, there must be a time period where a special or an amended proclamation on what you are doing to now go and look at who has this permanent residence. Because most of them, they might be working in different platforms, including in our universities. They might be very well working in our universities. And that would be my issue there, but unfortunately we're not at Home Affairs. Maybe